This, good readers, is the Mind Expander 158, and I have the 54 just right behind this camera, but I was just so curious about just going a little bigger because that 54 is so quick that I thought maybe going 58 might even be more fun. And you know, I just really love this board. It's definitely shines much more in powder than anything else. But for a flat to rocker board, I can't say I've had as much fun on groomers than almost any other flat to rocker board. It's just really fun and quick edge to edge and dynamic and playful. It really hurries you up out of a carve, and it doesn't it's nowhere near as fun as the hovercraft if you want to go out and lay trenches, or even the flagship or any of those other boards that actually have some camber going on. I even had more fun on the Mountain Twin. But it's just fun to turn and play around, and it's just a very, very good board if you're waiting for powder. Like waiting for some chair to pop that has all the powder and the rest of the, you know, the mountain's been groomed up. Or, you know, it's just after the powder day and you're just like, hell, you know, you live for powder, but you want to ride one more day. This will be fun. You know, I wouldn't say it's the, you know, the groomer killer that Jones does, but I would say it's pretty fun for the kind of board it is. So I got this. I also have to say, you can see here just nice, pure black, perfect base with just a little die cut in the nose. And that's how I like it. And there's so much rocker, it'll take a lot for this to be hit, you know, it's so far up. And you can just see there's just so much rocker going on. It's just such a big ass nose, and it's got like that kind of like boat kind of thing going in the front. Let me see if I can do this. Let's see if it'll focus in. Playing around with this new autofocus. Oh, maybe it'll focus in. Probably not, but there's definitely a lift on the sides as well as rocker. But what's kind of cool about that is it doesn't lift where the contact points are, really. So it feels like the board it is on snow. Another thing I wanted to mention about this production model compared to the 54 I demoed, this is so much stiffer. This is just as stiff as the 154 I had from last year, maybe even a touch more with this carbon strip down the middle. So that's really cool. I was worried that they thought they'd soften it up a ton because they put in that carbon fiber strip, and they didn't. This is still just like kind of on the Jones level of stiffness. It's much better. There's a mellow disruption and side cut, kind of like the mellowest of mags. I think it's only like a 5-point mag instead of a 7-point, and it grips really well, but it doesn't grab. So it's great because a lot of people think, why would I want edge hold on a powder board? Well, if you've ever dropped into an icy chute that's ice halfway, you know, halfway down, and then all of a sudden, you know, there's an area that stops the wind from blowing the snow away, and all of a sudden you've got like waist deep powder. That's why, because it's not always an easy journey to get to the good stuff. And sometimes you have to deal with some pretty hard, pretty scary shit. So that's why I love that Jones has, even on their like more pure powder board, like that magna traction. So let's get into, you know, kind of setback on board. I've been calculating incorrectly, or kind of just, I've been basically just, or to say it another way, maybe, you know, like a politician would, I've been measuring from the tip to the furthest setback and subtracting the difference between the tail to kind of show you how much there is on board that there's a difference. Instead, I forgot to divide it by 2 to show you like where is the setback in relation to the center. But anyways, you've got 6 inserts, you've got a reference stance, like they say, of like just about 23.5, which is pretty wide these days. And then set all the way back though is like 22 3/4, which is pretty cool with full-size discs. You know, there's one here and one here. This is all the way back. So if you're gonna set it all the way back, you're looking at just about 24.5 and just about 14.25. So that, I believe, is 10.25. We're going to do a little math here. Yeah, 10.25. Then I need to divide it by 2, and we're looking at 5.125. So it's that's really far back on board, no matter whether you say it's 10.25 back on board, or if you say it's 5.125 back on board, it's still super far back. There's a lot of directional float, and you can just see, especially when you pull this out and you just like, you know, when you're looking at this on the table like this, and you're just looking at all this nose and this little tail, there's so much more directional float, but there's so much more tail. Conversely, there's so much more tail than like the Storm Chaser. That's just like, basically it feels like the tail starts like right after the bindings kind of like start swallowing out. And that just feels way more bouncy and bucky. It's a shorter board. And that 54 compared to, I think it was like the 51 or something like that, when I did that comparison in powder, I just couldn't believe how much I appreciated this extra tail. Now, the Storm Chaser is an amazing board. It's super fun, but I felt like I had to really slow down with that board. I couldn't really hammer through a line like I could with this. So that's why I have 2 mind expanders. God, I'm a gear whore. And I love having these boards, and that's why I asked Jones for this board, because I want this in my quiver whenever I get another powder board, like what I would call like a pure powder board. I want this as a standard as to which to compare other boards against. And I just fucking love this. And if it's a powder day, I'm gonna want to be on this no matter what other boards I'm testing. I might, want to go get 1 or 2 runs on this, even if I'm testing another powder board, to see how it compares, but also just because I love this board. I just think it's one of the best floaters I've ever ridden.